Good evening. It's funny. We moved. I'll tell you, for 3 days we didn't have hot water. For about a week we didn't have internet. I sent a picture of where I am and how I'm podcasting tonight. I am podcasting. I don't have a fancy desk. I don't have all my commodities that I'm used to having. But you know what? I had to talk some baseball because it's been far too long. Okay? But if you notice that picture, what I did find my whiskey. So, welcome back baseball, my first love, my true love, right? I'm realistic. I know it's December, but as I pivot from football to baseball, I want to jump back in with 2 feet. I'm not, since we've moved, I'm not doing a traditional football wrap-up show like I would normally want to do. But I do want to say that I'm in 6 leagues. I made the playoffs in 5 leagues. And I'm in a championship in 2 leagues. And then the semifinals in another league. So I've had a pretty good baseball year. Or football year. But, I figure here we are, week 16. Let's start talking about football or baseball. Because that's what this is all about, right? This is the Lenny Melnick Fantasy Sports Network, and we talk baseball here, okay? So, you guys, I love the support. Thank you guys all for showing up. I appreciate it. And, everybody's kind of fishing for news right now. You guys know I do my shit my own way. So what I did, I posted on the site there this dynasty article that piqued my interest. Actually, last night, I realized I was going to do a show last night. About 8 o'clock, I texted Lenny. So it's interesting because when we're talking about a dynasty draft versus a redraft or one of those sorts of leagues, it weights things a little bit differently, right? And so what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to this is top 50 keepers for 2020. Again, dynasty style, okay? But we're going to go down through this. Again, I shared it with you guys. First off, welcome, all my friends. Andrea, Arnie, Lenny, Kevin, Eric, welcome. Thank you guys for joining me. I hope you enjoy the content. My name's Chappy. This is Chapp's Fantasy Chat. I love doing this. Again, I'm still living out of boxes, but I found my computer and I wanted to talk baseball. So thanks for joining me. Let's talk Dynasty. Let's talk why it's different. Dynasty's different because you have to think. It's going to be more weighted towards younger players. It's going to be more weighted towards players who are going to have a bigger impact in the future, right? But fact is, you could take this same list and pretty much apply it to a redraft league. Because if you look at these players, these are your who's who, right? So let's jump right into it. Again, this is an article by Scott White. It's on CBS Sports. I picked it up last night, and I thought it was interesting. So let's talk about it. Who's underrated? Who's appropriately rated? And who's overvalued? So I just posted it there for y'all to join along. But really no need because we're going to go down through this, and then we're going to talk about at the end. We're going to talk about some guys that I think. Again, those of you that know me know I'm all about projection, right? We're in these leagues to win it. Everybody can sit here. We're at a moment in time. Everybody can sit here and talk about what's happened in the past. I'm more about trending and what's going to happen in the future, okay? That's how I approach this a little bit differently. Throughout the course of this preseason, you'll see that my lists are weighted differently because that's how I look at it, okay? So let's talk about Dynasty format for 2020. Really interesting right off the bat, the very first player, it's not Mike Trout. It's Ronald Acuna. And I know, you might be thinking that's skewed, that's not right. And you're right, I get it. But again, this is for Dynasty. That's why we're doing this a little bit differently. Ronald Acuna is 22 years old, guys. That has some weight when you're doing these lists. He hasn't hit peak yet. Last year, at 21 years old, mind you, he hit 280, 41 homers, 127 runs, 101 RBIs, and 37 stolen bases. He won a Silver Slugger Award, and he was 5th place in the MVP vote. 21, for emphasis. Okay? So, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about differences between Dynasty, Redraft, and other formats. Ronald Acuna is a legitimate number 1 here, right? I agree with this statement that Scott White made in this article. Acuna is your number 1 player in a Dynasty format. Now, I know it might be unpopular with you Trout fans. Okay? Number 2 on this list, you got Cody Bellinger. Some of these guys I'm going to talk about, some of them I'm not. Okay, so as we go through this list, understand that this is our first meeting, right? This is an overview. We're talking about these guys. These are guys, again, we're establishing value. Early on, this is our first swipe, right? Cody Bellinger, number 2, I disagree with. I think he's overvalued here. I think there's some regression this year with Cody Bellinger. Yes, he had a lights-out season last year. 305, 47 homers, 121 runs, 115 RBIs, and 15 stolen bases. I look for all of those numbers to decrease this year. Save except the RBIs. Okay? So if you think about it, 4 of your 5 categories that count in most leagues are going to go down from what he did last. Now, he had a phenomenal year last year. I just think he's overvalued at 2 here. I'd put him somewhere between 8 and 12, if I'm just being honest with you guys. And that's fine, Andrew. That's what's great about this. It's great to disagree, right? That's why we come to this decision as a community so that we all make good decisions going into our drafts. I think Bellinger regresses this year. 3 on this list, who I think obviously is the number 2, is Trout. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about him. What I do want to say about Mike Trout, he has a whole lot of positives going in his favor this year from last year. If you think about what's happened with Mike Trout, Joe Madden is now the manager. You got to like his fresh new approach. Justin Upton should be healthy this year. Ohtani will have another year under his belt. Joe Adele's coming in. Oh, yeah, there's that one guy they signed. What's his name again? Oh, he just came over from the World Series champions, Anthony Rendon. Can you tell I like the Angels? So he's at 3 in this list. Yelich, again, not going to talk about some of these guys' bets. When I don't talk about them, I think they're appropriately placed. Who I do want to talk about, the third guy I want to talk about is Juan Soto. He's number 6 on this list. Okay? Guys, Soto's 21 years old. Dynasty value, this guy's through the roof. He plays like a 10-year vet. Again, he's the leader of that offense now in Washington. Okay? 21, dude. He's 21. He hit 282 last year, 34 homers, 110 runs, and 110 RBIs. He doesn't get fooled at the plate. He has tremendous discipline. What's not to like about Juan Soto? At 6, I think he is totally appropriately valued. It depends, Andrea. It depends. I mean, if there wasn't a guy like Acuna, I'd still have Trout there. It just so happens he's there. I wouldn't place any of these other guys in front of him. You have to love his upside this year. He's got a chance. They've given him the players that he's been asking for the last 4 or 5 years. And they're not done yet. They could go out and sign. You got to love the Joe Madden edition. I think Joe Madden got a bad rap in Chicago. I think a lot of that onus is to be placed on Jed and Theo. They've made bad trades. I think Joe Madden flourishes in LA. I love Juan Soto. Again, be 22 this year. You gotta love this kid. Bregman at 7. He's amazing, right? 296, 41 homers, 25 years old. Only 5 stolen bases last year, but he's given 17 and 10 already in his short career. Love him at that spot. I look for maybe a little bit of regression at the power with some of the issues that they run into. How about Arenado? 8. Lot of things going on with whether or not he's going to be in Colorado. If he changes scenery, that could change his draft value a lot, right? Maybe for the better, maybe for the worse. It's hard to get a better situation than Colorado. But if he goes to New York, like everybody, all you Yankee fans want to talk about, right? That changes things. Again, I mentioned this. I marched to the beat of my own drum. Garrett Cole, number 9. I disagree with that. He's way too high there. I know the strikeout numbers are elite. I worry about his ERA this year. I worry about expectation. I think he's going to have a good year. I certainly don't value him more than Fernando Tatis. Fernando Tatis at number 10, I think, is undervalued. That's right. I said it. I really do think this guy, again, at 20 years old, he'll play this year at 21. What's not to love? We're going to talk about more of him on another day because there's a lot to talk about with Fernando Tatis. But man, this guy certainly has a bound of potential. And now I'll get to the point. This is the whole reason I did this article. I got a lot of good stuff to back it up, but this is where we started, okay? This is the root cause of my impromptu, normal Thursday night show, albeit about baseball rather than football. How about number 11? This time last year, if you'll recall, my friend Arnie Jones and I talking about a young Yordan Alvarez, this prospect who had gained all this clout and was supposed to be the next big thing. Everybody was still talking about Kyle Tucker in Houston. That was the big guy. But me and my friend Arnie, we talked a lot about Yordan Alvarez. And he lived up to expectation, didn't he, guys? At 11, what do you guys think? I love that I got a pretty good chat room here. What do you guys think about Yordan Alvarez at 11 on this dynasty? 22 years old. Hit .313 last year. 27 homers, 58 runs, and 78 RBIs, and just 313 at-bats. Yeah, me too, Arn. Me too, bud. Arnie says still. So, first off, let me stop. We're 15 minutes in. Guys, if you're just listening and you're not tuned into the chat room at LennyMelnickFantasySports.com, you're doing yourself a disservice. I have the who's who of fantasy baseball podcasters in this chat room right now interacting with me. And, if you have any questions or whatnot, you should get in and you should get on all fun because it really is. I'm honored to have my friends here with me, my colleagues, and they really do. We all get to this answer together, right? Arnie says too high. And I'll concede to that. I'll still take Frankie Lindor over him, but I don't think it's obnoxiously high. Let's put it that way. George, welcome. I don't think it's, so at 11, you're looking at a 12-team league, a first-round pick for a guy who, Arnie, sorry, I got to throw this part in. So I just told you Alvarez has been Major League stats. Before, I didn't give you 412 OBP. That's pretty impressive as well. So if you add his minor league stats and his major league stats together for the full year, 50 homers, 108 runs, 149 RBIs last year. That's fine, Andy. It's fine that it's CBS rankings. That's not what this is about. Right? This isn't meant to be taken as gospel. It's a good discussion point, though. It's a measuring stick. Right? That's what's great about doing this in December. You start to put your list together, and then you fine-tune it. You refine it down. I don't think Alvarez is too high, is my point. Maybe not 11, but I think he's up there. I think he's a first-round pick. He's end first, high second. You're talking about 50 homer potential. Guy hit 312. He's a polished hitter. I don't see regression with him. That's my point. Okay? I don't know that I would, Arnie. Arnie says I'd rather have Judge. That's a good point, though. Judge definitely deserves to be on the list of who are the guys that we missed, right? Because certainly his potential is through the roof, and he got, bitten by the injury bug last year, and I don't look for that to be a something that's ongoing. I think it was just a little bit of okay. I just think it's a little bit of bad luck for Judge. I think that next year's his numbers go back to similar to Jordan Alvarez. I think that's a great point you make, Arnie. By the way, new house, new settings, new surroundings, new bottle of whiskey. Drinking Basil's Hayden tonight. So, cheers to all my friends. Hope you enjoy. Hope you're drinking with me. So let's move on. Let's talk about Frankie Lindor a little bit. Number 12. I think this is... I don't think he's getting the credit he deserves here. It'll be interesting to see if he gets moved or not. But in all honesty, Lindor at sorry, I'm kind of blind. 26 years old is still a first-round pick, in my opinion, and probably deserves to be moved up just a bit in this list. Rafa Devers. How about this guy? Okay? You might rather have Alvarez over who, George? Lindor? It's close. So let's talk about Devers. Again, another one of these young guys. You look at, that's the consistency with most of these guys on this list, right? The ones that are unexpected on this list. 23 years old for Devers. Really kind of came into his own last year. 311, 32 homers, 129 runs. Oh, the Judge. Okay. I mean, I think it's fair, but they're the same player. They're the same player. You might get a little higher average with Alvarez, right? So, I agree. Lindor before both. I agree with that too. So, but Devers, I mean, here's another guy. You're talking about this time next year. If he continues this upward slide, he could be a top 8 pick. Guys, he stole 8 bases out of nowhere last year. I think Judge is, I have to find someone else on that. I just guessing. Judge 26, 27? Just guessing. Don't know. Don't have it in front of me. But Devers at 23 certainly has 40 homers in his bat. 32 last year. Like I said, 311 average, 129 runs, 115 RBIs, 5-star player. I don't know how much you can rely on those. I don't know how much you can rely on those stolen bases this year, but he's definitely an emerging star. He's a big part of the reason why the Red Sox are shopping Mookie Betts, in my opinion. I feel like the Red Sox feel like this is the new leader of that offense, along with Xander Bogaerts. Gleyber Torres. I love Gleyber. I'm a big Gleyber fan. I wish the Cubs would have never gotten rid of him. 23 years old. As a as a 22-year-old last year, and the biggest pressure-packed team in the majors. Gleyber's hit 278 last year. He had 38 homers, 96 runs, 90 RBIs. It's hard to believe 28. Okay, for Judge. Okay. It's hard to believe Gleyber's only 23 years old. He handles himself like a 10-year vet. He really is, as advertised when he was signed as a 17-year-old for the Cubs organization. It really is a shame that he's not playing for Chicago. But boy, this guy, 38 homers out of this guy. I think he might be able to get to 50 by the time he peaks as a, why not this year? Why not with that lineup? He's going to be protected, right? Think about it. You going to throw a straight ball to Sanchez, or you going to throw a straight ball to Torres? Judge, Andujar, Stanton. I mean, the Yankee lineup's just an onslaught, right? I love Gleyber Torres, and I like where he's ranked on this. I mean, Andy, you and I had this conversation last year. Shane Bieber or Mike Clevenger. Obviously, this publication thinks Shane Bieber is the guy. Obviously, at 24 years old, there's some weight distributed to him from that perspective. I love Shane Bieber. We all know this. He's the new Indians ace. But he'll be well protected. There won't be too much pressure put on him. They still got Carrasco, Clevenger, Savale, Plesac. They lost. Forgot his name. I keep wanting to say Bieber. It's guy went to Arizona. Sorry. Yeah, they lost Kluber. Sorry, brain fart. Hey, Arnie, it's the truth though. I'll tell you. Gleyber's just an elite talent, right? But it'll be interesting to see what the Indians do with this pitching staff, because if they're really in sell mode, this is where they can get the most of the bang for the buck, right? At 24 years old, he is the Indians' ace, albeit they still have two other ones. We'll talk about Vlad Jr. in a little bit, Andrea. But fact of the matter is, Bieber's the guy that they're going to give the ball to when it counts. Ketel Marte is an interesting story. I mean, 26 years old. He was a highly touted Cuban coming up. He finally came into his own last year. People didn't really think that he had that much power in his bat. Hell, I didn't think he had. I knew he was a good ball player. I thought he could hit 20 homers. He certainly has. He's an interesting case. Maybe that's a little high for him. I'll tell you a guy who I think is definitely too high is Pete Alonso. This is a regression candidate. I feel like the league will catch up to him this year. Now, I'm not saying he's not still going to hit homers. I just think he's going to have a really hard time hitting them the way he did last year. Okay? Again, this is very early on. I don't see me changing my stance on that, but 17 is really too high. Okay? My opinion. Giolito, how about number 19? Austin Meadows. Now, y'all know what I'm going to say here. You guys are here. You know what I'm going to say. Boy, he looked good in the Pirates uniform. Got to beat that dead horse, right? Pirates couldn't use this guy. They don't need 291, 33 homers, 83 runs, 89 ribbies, 12 stolen bases. No, thank you. We'll take Chris Archer instead. Anyway, Austin Meadows, great young player. Yeah, I saw that, Andy. I think this is appropriate. That's the reason why there's new management in Pittsburgh, right? It's just the way it is. Hopefully, it's interesting because they've brought these guys who maybe might feed into a little bit to the metrics, the data, and all the stuff that makes successful baseball organizations. So hopefully the Pirates start buying into that, So, moving on down the list, number 20, Luis Castillo. Love this kid. 27 years old, a little bit later, or a little bit older on this list, but still is an ace in my opinion. Got a couple things working for him. Really came into his own last year. Established himself as a true number one pitcher, right? 15-8, 3.40 ERA, 226 strikeouts to just 79 walks. Got that under control. 114 WHIP. Again, at 27 years old, that's what kind of the age you start to expect to see that from a pitcher. But then you got this other piece. You bring in a Trevor Bauer. And yes, you can't talk about go an hour without talking about Trevor Bauer. But you bring in this analytics piece to help this young pitcher grow. You bring in all this data for him to absorb. I can't imagine Luis Castillo going south of this. So if we're talking about north of 15-8 and a 3.40 ERA, 226 strikeouts, I'll take that all day long. All day long, Kevin. You're absolutely right. Olsen over Alonso. That's perfect. It's a perfect example. So here's where I kind of, We'll summarize from here on out. I went to the top 20. Guys of note on this list that I want to talk about. Trust me, I got about 20 guys here I want to talk about, so I'm not finishing up, okay? I've been away a long time, so I got a lot to say. Thanks for hanging with me. Thanks for letting me work through it. But some of these guys of note further down on this list, okay? We'll talk about all these guys as we go through. I want to skip down 24. How about Anthony Rendon? I made mention of him moving to Los Angeles. I think this is a good move for him. You look at the protection around him. I don't know what's not to like here. I think he might have an even better year this year in LA, which is an anomaly for a player that's changing scenery, right? But look at the protection around him. I think this is going to be a good move for him. I think Joe Madden's going to be a good manager for him. Last year, 319, 34 homers, 107 runs, 126 RBIs for the World Series champs. But now, he'll be protected by guys like Justin Upton, Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout. Should be really fun for Rendon, right? Whoever said it earlier. How about Keston Hiura? This is a kid, I love this kid, right? I mean, what's not to like? At 26, kid out of Cal State Fullerton, was described as the best bat in the draft coming out a few years back, went quickly through the minors. Now here he is at 23 years old. And he's going to play a key part in protecting Christian Yelich this year. Kid can flat out hit. His homers will be inflated. Because he's in Miller Park. Can't play a lick of defense. But we don't care about that in fantasy baseball. I love this next guy. Anybody that knows me knows this. Bo fucking Bichette. This is a guy, guys. I've said this I've said it for longer than I've been podcasting. I've said this for 3 years now. I've said it for 2 years on air. Bo Bichette will be a better baseball player than Vladimir Guerrero. I know it's a bold prediction, but the numbers showed it last year. Bo Bichette at 21 years old is criminally underdrafted here at 27. If you get him at 27 in a dynasty draft, you should consider yourself lucky. Dante's son is due for a breakout year. This is a top 10 player, guys. This is what I'm talking about waiting, just changing your angle just a little bit on how you're viewing these guys. Everybody wants to talk about the now. Bo Bichette, I'm projecting towards what's he going to be at the end of the year. Bo Bichette's a top 10 player. Bold enough for you? Ed, welcome. Thanks for coming. Hope you enjoy the content. All right, we're going to beat that horse one more time, right? Tyler Glasnow, number 28. I think you guys know where I'm going with this. Press could use him, right? Neil Huntington's a fucking boob. Sorry. Apologies for the language. Not really. So, again, at number 28, I think this is a SP1. He and Snell will make a really dangerous 1-2 punch. The Rays are loaded, guys. Brandon McKay, Charlie Morton. Rays are loaded with the pitching staff. Tyler Glasnow is going to be a big part of that team. Moving on down the list. Andy, how about Mike Clevenger, 31? I think you know what I'm going to say. He's undervalued here. Duh. He's an SB1, right? I really believe that. But I think it's interesting when you look at this here. 31 and 32. Clevenger and Paddock. Boy, that's a pretty good comparison. Paddock, I'll tell you, he really kind of piqued my interest last year. With that whole ordeal with Pete Alonso, right? Talk about how he felt snubbed and really kind of, I think he threw at him, and there was a big deal about that, right? I like this kid's salt. I think it's a good comparison, these two pitchers. What Clevenger has that Paddock maybe doesn't at this point in their careers, Clevenger's got the mental edge and how he approaches the game. Studying around Bauer kind of has propelled his value, and that he's able to do it consistently. So Clevenger now, Paddock in a couple years. Paddock's a really good ball player. Okay, talk about undervalued, and I'm going. How about Shohei Ohtani? People forget how good of a pitcher Ohtani flashed that he could be. You're talking about, now, I say this. Hey, Ed, thanks for joining me, buddy. I say this about Ohtani. You really need to pay attention to your format when you're talking about Shohei Ohtani. If you're in a format where you can use him in both aspects as a pitcher and as a hitter, this is criminally... CBS is one of those formats. You can draft him as one player, right? But if you're talking about Shohei Ohtani in Yahoo, where you have to draft a pitcher and a batter, it changes things dramatically, okay? Point being, this is a CBS Sports article. 33 is criminally low for Shohei Ohtani and his value, okay? If we're talking about a Yahoo site, I think it's too high. So again, it's really important to understand your format and why that changes. So, Ed, I know you're kind of new to this, and I want to, really, in CBS Sports, you can kind of you can pivot him from pitcher to catcher or pitcher to fielder on a daily, if he's DH in one day, you could put him at DH, and then when he goes to pitch, you could put him at pitcher. So, on what format, Kevin? So you can interchange him, is my point. You can use him so Fantrax is a good example. I have him in a Fantrax league. You could pitch him one day and turn around and you can move him to a DH the next day. Okay? Ohtani, I think at the end of this year, could be a first-round pick. If he comes back... Listen, again, look at his age. He's only 25 years old. It's really important to understand he is totally unknown, but he's flashed capability. And you have to think he wants to put it all together. He really wants to prove that he is who we all thought he was. I really think this is why it's different. I'm projecting, right? This is a point in time now. What we're talking about at the end of the year, Andy. So at 33 now, in a Fantrax format, he could be 12 or 13 at the end of the year. Totally feasible. Let's move on. Because now it gets interesting. You're getting down here to some of these. Josh Bell. I love Josh Bell. He's going to go alligator swimming a bunch this year. But he's also going to get moved most likely. He's definitely a regression candidate in my book. I just don't see Pittsburgh's morale improving this year. They're in rebuild mode, and that's okay, because I really feel like they needed to change everything in their organization, and they did that. But if you think Josh Bell is going to be in Pittsburgh at the end of the year, you're fooling yourself. Here's an undervalue. Joey Gallo, 36. Guy hit 253 last year. I know that doesn't sound like a lot. But you have to take into account his career high prior to that was 209. That's a 45-point increase. That's important because the guy has 50 homer power. Again, Andy, this is all in how we analyze this, right? If you'll remember last year, I was talking to you about Lourdes Gurriel. I was talking to you about Jorge Polanco. Nobody knew shit from Shinola about those guys, about what they're going to be. This is about capturing trending. That's what this is all about. You're looking at this as a point in time right now. I'm looking at it as where are we going to be at the end of the year? Because that's what wins cash. That's the difference. Right? So yeah, it sounds like me spouting my opinion, but it's based on facts. It's based on, there's educated guesses behind it is my point, right? So that's where I'm coming from. But Joey Gallo has 50 homer potential, right? You guys know I love to do this. Last year when he got hurt, if you take where he was, I didn't write this down, I apologize. If you take I think he had 22 homers or something like that last year. Sorry, I didn't have that point. But if you take what he had and you project it out, 51 homers, 125 RBIs, and 125 runs and 115 RBIs. I like Yuli too. You know I like Yuli. We talked about that last year too, right? You remember that. So he's only 26. Gallo. Back to Gallo. He's only 26. The potential for him to hit 50 homers and 253 would almost certainly put him in an MVP conversation. Okay? He was on pace to do that last year. He just got hurt. I love Gallo. At 37, take what I said about Joey Gallo and apply the exact same thing to Matt Olson. 25 years old. 50 homer power potential. I love this guy going into this year. Again, at this point, we are projecting. Absolutely. And I'm perfectly confident doing that. You're going to have injuries. That shit's going to happen. I'm not talking about that. That's an anomaly. If Matt Olson continues on the projection that he's on, 45 homers is absolutely realistic out of him. If he has 45 homers, he's a top 12 pick next year. Value. That's my whole point. Okay? Skip around a little bit because I want to talk about some of these guys at the end. Jesus Luzardo at 45, I love. Talked about him a lot last year. Had some bad luck with injuries. 3+ pitches. Left-handed heat. He steps in as the automatic ace of this playoff team in Oakland. Love Jesus Luzardo. Now, I do want to talk about a few guys not on this list and how I'm going to make my argument as to why they should be on this list. Okay? I already mentioned one of them, Lourdes Gurriel. I love this guy last year. I love him more this year. Listen, here's the thing. These Cuban players, they don't do shit in April and May. They just don't like cold weather. And that's okay. Hold tight to these guys. Okay? Lourdes Gurriel last year hit .277, 20 homers, 52 RBIs, or 52 runs, 50 RBIs, and 6 stolen bases. Now, talk about his slow start, talk about his injury. You turn that into even 4/5 of a full year, right? Taking out the first quarter of the year, or first fifth of the year, because it's cold and Cubans don't like cold. We have to take this stuff into account, right? You take that first fifth out of the year. I see no reason why Gurriel can't hit 35 homers. Think about it. Think about this. What happened? The difference between last year and this year with Lourdes Gurriel. Last year, he was playing all over the friggin' infield. They didn't have a position for him. Now, yeah, it was good because he had second base eligibility. He had shortstop eligibility. He had third base eligibility. He had left field, center field, blah, 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 blah. That's all fine and dandy. But if you're not producing, it doesn't matter shit. Right? He's found a home in left field. He's got protection all around him in that lineup. It's time for him to hit the ball. So where you're losing position flexibility, you're gaining in pure stats. I'll take the pure stats. Okay? How about Nick Castellanos? Where's he going to sign? Right? Here's a guy that's on this list. Not on this list, it should be. You look at what happened to him last year. He's basically been in purgatory in Detroit. Until last year he gets traded to the Cubs. And all of a sudden, his bat wakes up. You look at his numbers from last year. They're decent, not great. 273, 27 homers, 100 runs, 73 RBIs. But you take what he did in Chicago versus what he did in Detroit, it paints a totally different picture. Of those 27 homers, 16 of them he hit in Chicago. So what, you might say? Well, he didn't have as many games. So he hit 16 of his 27 homers in 51 of his 151 games last year. He had 11 homers in Detroit in 100 games, 16 homers in Chicago in 51 games. That's significant. That tells me he didn't want to be there. Now I hope the Cubs sign him as a Cubs fan. It doesn't matter as long as he has autonomy to go wherever he wants. He's going to go someplace where he's happy. He's going to go to a contender most likely. I looked for 27 homers as a floor for him. 273 is a floor for him. He scored 100 runs last year and played most of his games for the Tigers. Let that sink in. This guy's a doubles machine. This guy could score 130 runs this year. That makes him a top 5-round pick. 4-round pick. I mean, that makes him viable at the end of this year. Don't sleep on him. How about Brandon McKay? Talked about him earlier. I love this kid. I really do think that he shows a ton of potential coming into this year. He showed that he belonged in the majors last year. I have no reason to think that he doesn't continue to improve. I love Brandon McKay this year. Some guys who I didn't see on this list that I was surprised. Arnie and I were talking earlier, about, how about Jorge Soler? Talk about 50 homer potential. Where is he on this list? Where's Adalberto Mondesi? You want to talk about a 5-star player, someone who gives you value at every position. I love Mondesi. Why isn't he on this? Guys, thanks for hanging with me. I don't know when I'm going to come to you next. Hopefully next week I'll be able to get on sometime. Thursday, Tuesday. Probably not Tuesday, but Thursday maybe. I am full steam with baseball. If you guys have football questions, Andy, I'm playing you in the championship this week in our Yahoo League. So, good luck, kind of. Anyway, I love doing this. I've missed you guys. Chaps Fantasy Chat coming to you on the Lenny Melnick Fantasy Sports Network. I'm on Thursday nights right now at 7 o'clock. Arnie and I and Kevin are planning on maybe doing something over break, a little 3-man show. But I'm back on baseball now, so I've missed this. We'll continue to develop this. If you guys have questions, if whether it's opinion about draft value or just general questions, right? Hit me up. Let me know. But again, you're listening to Chaps Fantasy Chat, coming to you from the Lenny Melnick Fantasy Sports Network. Great network of guys. I want to thank everybody that joined in tonight and supported me. Andy, Lenny, I love you guys. Kevin, Arnie as well. You guys are great. George, Ed, anyone who, if you're just listening to this, please, for next time, just, again, I'm happy. Of my 6 leagues, I made the playoffs in 5. I'm in the championship in 2, including my work league, which I value greatly. And I'm in the semifinals in Arnie's league. So, really excited about football still. I'm still all in football. But, this is a baseball network, and I love talking baseball with my baseball friends. So, absolutely, Andrea. I would love to. So anyway, I'll come to you guys soon. I love doing this. Chaps Fantasy Chat. We're back on baseball. Arnie and I will be coming to you soon, pretty consistently. Arnie, I, and Kevin are going to come to you soon. Andy, I'd love to do a show with you sometime. Lenny, I'd love to do a show with you sometime. Anyway, love you all. Chaps Fantasy Chat, Lenny Melnick Fantasy Sports Network. Good night. Peace.